You cannot logic someone into caring about you. You cannot guilt someone into becoming emotionally mature. You cannot force someone to be honest with you. You cannot force someone into being loyal to you if they have already decided they are not going to be. Let me just say something straight. You are not only suffering because life is cruel. You are also suffering because you keep arguing with things that already happened. Yes, you keep arguing with things that have already happened. And nobody really talks about that part honestly. Something went wrong, someone left, something didn't work out, and instead of processing it and moving, you have been sitting in a loop going, this shouldn't have happened, this is unfair, why me, what have I done wrong? And I get it, I really do. But here's the actual problem. That loop doesn't change anything. It doesn't reverse what has already happened. It doesn't make that person come back. It doesn't fix that situation. All it does is keep you stuck in a moment that is already over. That's not suffering from life. That's suffering from your own resistance to what life already did. There is this phrase I came across. Cooperate with the inevitable. And honestly, the first time I heard it, I rolled my eyes. I thought, that's just a fancy way of saying, give up. Like, no, I don't cooperate. I fight. I am a fighter. I don't quit. I figure things out. I don't just accept bad situations. But I was misunderstanding it completely. Cooperate with the inevitable. What does this phrase actually mean? It means I see what's real. And I'm going to stop bleeding my energy fighting what I literally cannot change. Honestly, it's not about giving up on situations. As we get older, the more we realize this phrase is not about giving up. It's about freedom. It's freedom from the situations that aren't in our hands. Situations we can't change even by force. Life just keeps going. Reality didn't care. It didn't reverse itself because we were upset about a situation enough. The situation will not fix itself automatically because we cried over it enough. We destroy our own peace by trying to emotionally negotiate with things that are already done. Someone showed us exactly who they were, and we stayed. We kept making excuses for them. Life closed a door on us, and every single day we went back to that door in our head and knocked again and again and again. The pain from what happened was already heavy, but we kept piling more on top of it by refusing to just see what's real. Let's talk about people because that's where most of us are actually bleeding. Someone in your life is dishonest or emotionally unavailable or just not showing up the way you need them to. And you have explained it to them multiple times. You have been patient all the time. You have tried different approaches. You have had the same conversation 15 different ways, hoping something finally lands. And they still haven't changed their ways. Here's the fact. If someone hasn't changed after you have clearly shown them what you need, they are not confused. They are not about to suddenly get it on the 16th conversation. They have shown you what they are choosing. You are just not accepting their answer. That's not their fault at this point. That's on you. I know it's hard to hear, but it's true. You cannot logic someone into caring about you. You cannot guilt someone into becoming emotionally mature. You cannot force someone to be honest with you. You cannot force someone into being loyal to you if they have already decided they are not going to be. Stop treating people like projects. So many of us waste years of our life hoping. Maybe if I explain one more time, maybe if I stay patient, maybe if I love them harder, they will one day change. No, if someone refuses to improve, changing them is not our option. But do you know what our option is? Changing our response to them. We can walk away. We can set boundaries. We can protect our peace. We can detach ourselves from those situations. We can finally choose ourselves. That's our power. Now, yes, I also know this truth. Not everyone can leave a painful situation immediately. Sometimes we are stuck because of family, stuck because of money, stuck because of fear, stuck because we don't have a support system, stuck because life is more complicated than people think. And that is the reality of life. But even if we cannot leave today, we still have the option not to surrender our minds to those situations that are holding us back. And that is where we lose ourselves, because we may be physically stuck in an uncomfortable situation for a while, but then we also become mentally and emotionally trapped inside that same situation. And that is dangerous. Because even if our escape is not immediate, we can still do something. We can stop expecting the impossible, stop begging someone to become who they clearly don't want to be, stop building our life around false hope, and start preparing our next move. Maybe we can't leave today, but can we make a plan? Can we save money? Can we emotionally detach? Can we stop shrinking ourselves? Can we start focusing on our future instead of holding on to the past and surviving our present? That's also power. Because cooperating with the inevitable does not mean give up. I give up. It means I see reality clearly and I will stop wasting my energy fighting what I cannot control. It means I will stop exhausting myself over situations that are simply not in my hands. Because some things are simply not in our control. We cannot control other people's behavior towards us. Why did they betray us? Why were we rejected? Why certain endings happened? The past? Or why life is not going according to plan despite making every effort? We cannot control those things. But what is in our control? Our next move. That's it. And honestly, that's enough. Because once we stop pouring our energy into dead situations, we finally have the energy to focus on what we can actually change. We can heal ourselves, create boundaries, improve our mindset, improve our habits, and work on our future. And maybe that's the lesson. Walking away from dead situations may not always happen instantly, but accepting the truth about those situations can happen now. And once we accept the truth, we stop wasting years waiting for things that are never coming. Sometimes the strongest thing we can say is, I may not be able to leave this situation today, but I will stop losing myself inside it. The real trap isn't the situation itself. The real trap is what happens in your head when you have been in a bad situation for too long. You stop thinking about getting out. You start just thinking about getting through the day. And slowly, without noticing it, the situation stops feeling like something you are temporarily in and start feeling like just your life now. And that's the most dangerous moment. Not when things get hard, but when you start accepting hard as permanent. Your circumstances being limited right now. That's a practical problem with a practical solution. That's solvable with time and some actual moves. But mentally giving up on the idea that things can be different, that's a different kind of stuck. And no amount of words, money, or opportunity fixes that one. So here's the actual fact check plainly. You can't change people who don't want to change. True. You can't undo what has already happened. True. You can't control outcomes that were never in your hands. True. But you are not as powerless as the situation has convinced you that you are. Also true. So what's actually in your control right now? Not other people's behavior, not the past, not why things went wrong, not the ending that already happened. What's in your control is what you do next, specifically, concretely, not some vague focus on yourself advice. Actually, what is the one thing you can do this week that moves you even slightly towards something better? One thing, just one. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people don't actually do that one thing. Not because they can't, because they are still quietly hoping the situation will fix itself and they won't have to do the uncomfortable work of changing it. And that hope, that quiet, stubborn, exhausting hope, is what keeps people stuck longer than any external circumstance ever could. So this isn't about motivation. This is just a fact check, just a simple math. You can't change people who don't want to change. You can't undo what has already happened. You can't control outcomes that were never in your hands. But you are not as powerless as you have convinced yourself you are. You have your next move. You have always had it. You have been just too busy arguing with the past to use it. That's it. That's the whole thing.